Okay. Call to order the November 14th, 2018 meeting of the Oregon City Library Board. Present for the board are Don Wright, Ken Hall, Jan Wallander, Scott Edwards, Nick Dierkman, and Larry Osborne. Thank you for the signs, help me read. And from the staff, Maureen Cole and Denise Butcher. Thank you. Before we start, any changes? Y'all have the agenda? Any additions or corrections to the agenda? Okay. Then the first agenda item is approval of the minutes from October.
I move they be approved as presented.
Second.
I actually have one, sorry about that,
Oh, no, it's
correction. So let me just, it's down under strategic plan, when it talks about the strategic plan would be viewed at a November 1st meeting at the joint board, friends and foundation meeting. The board was not at that meeting, so it's just a joint friends and foundation meeting.
Gotcha.
So if you'd accept that correction.
I would.
Okay.
I didn't catch that.
So I think it was moved and seconded to approve the minutes as, with that minor correction.
As amended. Yes.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes are approved. Next agenda item would be public comments, and as of yet, I see no visible public, so we'll.
Call in now.
Or text.
1-800 library.
So we'll assume there are no public comments, and unless anybody else is hearing something I don't hear. So next would be the library's director's report.
Great.
Mo.
Thank you very much, Jan and library board. So, this last month, October, we did successfully have our, have our library shut down for 4 days and worked on our projects that, are completed, and one being the, noise baffles that also act as light baffles under the skylight, the mechanical shades on the clear story windows, and the divider between the children's desk and the main lobby desk, our hello desk, and then a new top, a nice gray that matches all the grays that we have in the building on top of that, so that when light does come in, it's not bouncing back into people's eyes. And so those were the main projects that we did. And we also did quarterly filter changes. We did a little bit of something electrical, as I'm remembering.
2 new security cameras.
That's right, 2 new security yeah, we've realized that there was a little spot outside over on the 7th Street side of the building that just wasn't really visible. So that's great, because Denise loves looking at the cameras from home. Actually, it's really great though, actually, to have a system like this, because then if something does happen, if an alarm goes off and we get a call, we can just like pop those open and see if we actually see anything, or we can just like say, okay, that's no big deal, don't worry about it, you know? So when that can be done from home, that's really helpful. Yes, Don?
Having been assigned in one of my odd jobs in retirement as being the security advisor for a construction company, I would have to get there first thing in the morning and look at the tapes of the dumpster outside there to see if anybody had been digging around our dumpster. And this was like a 12-hour tape, like you can fast forward like this, but it was the worst job I've ever had in my life. And I was wondering if you have somebody like that. No, doesn't monitor anything, okay.
We only look if there's a problem.
Yeah, and that, the dumpster building is locked.
Yeah.
And so there might be trash containers outside waiting for pickup, but.
Ours wasn't, and it was in a tough neighborhood. so,
Yeah,
you know.
we've had surprisingly few
Okay.
problems. Yeah, and the cameras do really
Well,
help.
thank you for that.
Yeah, you
I
bet.
wouldn't wish that on anybody.
I'll just comment on the building changes. You know, they were happening, I think, the reception, their foundation meeting right after that. And I think, I remember looking around going like, what did you do? I don't see anything different. So it was,
Yeah.
kudos said it was pretty invisible, all those changes got made, but it didn't seem to change the sort of character.
Yeah, and that's one
space.
reason I felt like very comfortable about making those. I'd say the baffles made like the biggest change. And, you know, the architect and the contractor and I, when we looked at them after they went in, we were like, these look like they belong there. You know, they look very natural. Like if you didn't really think about it, you wouldn't notice them. So, I mean, I think they kind of add to the architectural, design a little bit, so thank you for that. So, we've been doing a lot of evaluations. It's kind of an administrative, annual thing that we rotate through evaluations. All the union people get evaluated in October. Denise and I get evaluated in November, and the city manager gets evaluated in December. Yeah, so that's kind of good, because then it's regular. And, we'll talk more about the strategic plan later. Programming, youth is already starting to plan it for next summer. Adults, Gina and Jen are just kind of constantly thinking about like, what are the right programs? What is the biggest bang for the buck? What is attended, what's not attended? And it's quite a bit of an art, to decide like what's the best time of the day. You might have a great program at the wrong time of the day. Might have the wrong program at the right time of the day. I mean, there's like so many variables, it's really annoying. But they're working on that. And then the other thing under programs is Jen is going to take she started actually, because it's an online class. There's a person that works over with Washington County Library Services who has a physical disability herself, and she offers a class to other librarians about kind of the world of physical disabilities and how to think about stuff like that and how to help people and meet their needs. So even though that's like a ginormous world of endless, varieties of needs, there's things that we can do. And we've really been thinking a lot about that, and that plays into our strategic plan as well. And I just happened to just drop into this conference. I saw this conference, a friend of mine wanted me to go with her, and we attended the California Library Association conference this last weekend, and the theme was diversity, and they had a lot of sessions that hit on that target. I mean, it's a pretty broad target, but for instance, one specific session was on trying to meet the needs of adults with developmental disabilities. And this is one area where we realize that we are just not doing a good job at meeting needs. We have several people who wanted to participate in a summer reading program, and ability-wise, the children's program would seem to fit better, but, age-wise and, everything else. So it's like we need to come up with something, and so we're gonna be working on that, particularly after Jen goes through this course, so that she can think of a few things that are appropriate.
Very good.
Ken, did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
So on the Zion Fest, I saw that you did get some good publicity. You were in the, I think the Oregonians A&E, which is.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Because
Has a
we
thing to
had
do
like
on the weekend.
1/3 less attendance than last
really?
year.
Oh.
So it was 120 last year, it dropped to 80, and Gina just felt like, as far as bang for the buck, it was just a lot of work. And it was expensive, frankly. It was expensive, so not sure we're gonna be continuing with some of that. So yeah, it's like making those decisions, it's really hard. You want to do something kind of new and edgy and everything, but what about our community? Is that meeting the needs of our community? I don't know.
Yeah, and those things are hard to figure out. Is it timing? Is it the date? Is it, what else was going on?
Exactly. And you can't really control that, of course. You could plan and plan and plan, and then something really cool will pop up on the same week as you, same day as you. So we also met with Washington County Libraries, and they're very similar in structure to Link. So that's always really fun to meet with them and kind of see what they, and you would probably, Nick, appreciate some of this more than anybody, since you have to sit through those meetings. But they are structured very differently than like we have a directors group. They have like a policy group, and then they have like this other group that maybe that's the policy group, but they involve city managers in some of their decision making. Because, and we've had this problem, directors will come and they'll be like, well, I have to go back to my library, and it's like, well, if you're gonna go back to your library and collect information, that's great. But if you have to go back and ask your city manager for permission to do something, why don't we just have the city manager at the table? So there's a little bit of tension over some of those decisions sometimes. Well, Washington County just has some city managers involved, at those kind of level of decision-making, meetings. So it's very interesting to talk to them. And then, of course, they have like, gosh, how many people do they have? Like, ridiculous, like their version of our network, our centralized office, they have like 30 people or something, and we have like 10. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And poor Greg, he was just like practically like crying when he heard that, you know? But it might help him get more staff. And we're also trying to do a strategic plan just for kind of like link.
They automated as much though as Clackamas County?
Yep,
They are?
yep, they have RFID. I'm not sure that, yeah, they must have a big AMH.
I mean, because, I don't know,
They have to. They're so cool and they've got so much money. They've got to. They absolutely have to. I haven't seen it. Anyway, and then just when I was bragging about how we like hit that 20,000 patron mark and we were staying above it, we get the annual purge. And we lost like what, almost, 2652. And these are people who had no activity for 3 years. So they're not using their library cards in checking out materials or like, actually, they might be using libraries, but they're not using their library card. So they can always come back in and get a new library card if they actually want to use library card, but.
And this takes into account online use things too, so.
Yeah, it has to, because those are checkouts, yeah.
is that really true though about the fines? Is that
Yeah, I
1,000?
know, so Ken already figured out that he just needs to owe $1,001 and he'll be set.
But is that really seriously the
Yeah.
cutoff?
Yeah.
How would anyone ever get to that point?
Oh, that's like somebody checks out like a stack of books, say 30 books, and they never come back. None of them, ever. So, and then you add fines on top of it.
So I saw that and I thought, that's crazy. So.
It happens, right?
does.
Yeah.
I
than you would think.
believe you, but it's just so crazy. So then,
I get
made me
75
interested
cents.
in, like how much do we have and how much do we lose every year in terms of books? Is that, have we seen those statistics or am I way off base?
I honestly never even look at that. It's kind of the cost of doing business is losing some materials. It's not so much that,
But how do we know how bad or how good we
are
are?
you sure you want to know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems like an important subject in a sense. Because we're adding books at, $50,000.
Well, yeah, but unless we like go to a collection agency or something and really go down that path, then probably it's going to be what it's going to be, kind of,
Libraries that have gone that path generally get pretty bad public relations out of it.
Yeah. So the thing is like, if people are gonna steal books, they're gonna steal books regardless of what you put in place. And, a lot of times too, it's like they're like children's books too, that it's like the parents are not taking care of their kids' needs and stuff, and because they've got other problems, other bigger problems to solve besides taking care of library books, And yeah, it's taxpayer money, but we haven't seen anything that would like make us think that it's extraordinary awful or anything.
The taxpayer money involvement is the cost of replacement books. It has nothing to do with the cost of the fines.
That's exactly right.
Somebody could run up a $20,000 fine, but the
That's exactly
cost to the
right.
public is no more.
That's right. And the fine is simply an incentive to bring the book back. Really, all we want are the books back. So, I mean, $1,000 would represent a big combination of things, fines plus probably actual books.
But when do you get cut off?
Oh, we don't allow people to check out any more books on their card if they already owe $25. It's low.
Okay.
It's low. So, I mean, that would be like really,
That's helpful. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my head around what
Yeah.
that all meant.
I mean,
when saw
it's
that.
lower at some libraries, but our system is 25, but I mean, I've heard of places that are as low as 10, but I mean, geez, 10, it doesn't take long to rack up $10,
But somebody who, like you're saying, checks out a bunch of books and
They just never came back.
They could get
Yeah.
a big amount in one fell swoop.
Right, and and probably like if they came in and they said, here's all like 30, 50 books or whatever, and they're all in okay condition, they haven't trashed them or anything like that, then you'd say, thank you, and we're gonna like take away a whole bunch of these fines because the fines exist to incentivize you to bring the books back. So like, help us, we'll like still charge you something, but we aren't gonna charge you this full world of fines,
Right.
right?
I think there have been a couple of studies that show that having fines doesn't increase or doesn't decrease the amount of lost books, but it decreases the time they're lost.
And as you know, probably as well, a lot of libraries have gone to no fines, especially for children's books. And I mean, I would, because it's like, why penalize children? We want them to like use
Gotta
the
teach them
materials.
discipline. Just kidding.
I know you are, but a lot of people think that, and I mean,
I remember being terrified of having a 25-cent fine once.
well, we have a lot of people who are really embarrassed by having like $1 fine, and it's like, what is, no, don't feel embarrassed about that.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, we all regularly carry fines on our accounts. Like mine's at 160, it's been at 160 for like forever.
You gotta pay that off.
I kind of carry it to like show people that
It's okay.
it's okay. Yeah, because we don't care. It's not like we're the fine police or anything.
Just waiting for that half off return.
Well, some people are. So anyway,
Thanks for the discussion.
statistically, we're doing pretty well. We took that big hit on our patrons.
I wanted to, when you said online use counts as like checking something out?
Yeah.
Does that apply to like if someone went online to the consumer reports that we
No.
offer? Oh, it doesn't. So if
No.
someone uses the foreign language or the consumer reports, that doesn't count?
No.
Okay.
That's not really, because we're talking about like a checkout, what you need a library card for. Like,
Because you
even
do
though
have
you
to-
have to like log into
Yeah.
your account.
Right.
To get to consumer reports, it's not the same as checking out an item.
Okay.
And so like an online downloadable something or whatever, that would count towards a checkout.
Our new film
So
site.
that's
is
a
that-
really good question, I'm not sure.
Okay.
That's a really good question, yeah. Great
I
question.
got a question.
Yeah,
This is going back to, a bit in here. You talked about Washington County
Yeah.
having like 3 times as many people. Isn't Washington County about 3 times the population?
well, no. So they're 40% bigger than us, but they have 3 times as many
Okay.
staff. So yeah, they're definitely bigger than us, but not 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you're saying in their central operation,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, so it's library to library, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Let's see here, the number of materials coming to us from other libraries as opposed to materials going out to other libraries continues to go down, which is a good sign. I really like that. Not much, the Wi-Fi sessions, I wanted to note to you that last month it was 85-35, it's down towards the bottom of the page. And this month it's 23-46 because they decided to count it in a whole new way. Or use a new figure. And so, like Aaron said, I suggest you just start from scratch from here on out. And it's like, okay, so 23-46 is now our new starting point. I don't know. So one of them is like users or actual like devices that might log on. And the other number was like pages or sites or some such thing like that. So,
It doesn't measure length of connection.
no, just like number of devices.
Okay.
Yeah. The rooms at the library were really busy this last month. And I guess you had made some notes, you sent me an email about that. Is there anything I didn't like cover that jumped out at you here?
I don't think so. I think you've covered most of them
Okay.
that I can think
All
of.
right, so any more questions about the monthly stuff? Okay. Great.
Any other questions at all from O1? Library director report, narrative or statistics?
It's still standing and it's still running.
Okay, good, then.
Yeah.
even after a small break. Okay, so the next agenda item is strategic plan.
Now, I can pop it up so you can see it on your thing if you want to go through it page by page. I don't really know how you want to look at it at this point, because I did send you a page that kind of talked about the changes. And, you know, at this point, we're really just, we added a couple things, but mostly we're just tweaking. We tried to add stuff that we knew, we just hadn't really articulated before, but we had talked about here.
So the version that said 11/7/18 versus the
Yeah.
9/26/18, it's just the newer, updated
Yeah, the
one, so-
11.7 is the new one, and the 9.26 was the last one that
Yeah.
you saw.
And so it looked like that a lot of the changes were in the actions and having a method, I mean, a date, a time.
Yeah,
or-
a
and
day,
they all-
you know, they maybe were just
Success.
articulated a little bit
Yeah.
better, you know? And then we did like change that number 5 to fortify infrastructure, which I came up with, and I really, really like. So don't make me change it, I will cry. And then we put, then we also like put the very last slide on like how we came up with it. We put that up to the top so that people could like see that we actually talked to other people besides ourselves.
And I'm trying to remember that last time we met, you had already presented to the staff, or we were going to present to the staff?
Well, staff has been getting presentations all along.
But there'd been one, I think, because you had that all-staff meeting or something, so you've got their feedback kind of rolled
Well,
in
did
here.
we review this at the, any one of
October?
our?
We
in
did.
October, yeah. So that was one of the things we did on the training day, yeah. So they've had plenty of time to look at this, and we did get some comments back.
I didn't specifically look back. When is this survey going to be done?
Which survey?
The community survey?
The survey, the city community survey, it was presented to the commission last night. And, oh, yes, and the thing that people were most satisfied with in Oregon City was the library.
Yeah, I imagine.
Top marks to the library, yeah.
I guess I was thinking, are you doing another survey then in terms of getting input? Because you referenced on some of those that.
There's like a ton of surveys we need to do, yeah.
But I mean, it seems like some of those would be driven by the results of the survey. And I think that was even mentioned in a couple of the
Well,
statements.
we're gonna have to go back and take an inventory of what we said we were gonna do, you know? And some surveys are available to us through like Project Outcome, which is a library-based thing that we have access to. And I would prefer that we don't just go out there willy-nilly making up surveys, but that we use surveys that are already created and somebody else has put a lot of thought into it. So as much as we can make that work for us, because it's not like we have the training on staff to come up with statistically valid surveys, you know? So, but yeah, there were several assessments and surveys that we said we were gonna do in this. And at least make sure, you know, the goal, of course, is that to make sure that we are getting feedback from the public in some way, shape, or form on a regular basis on a multiple realm of topics. So there's like, and I know there's a technology one, there's a perception one, I think there was a facilities one, satisfaction one, you know, and some of those we might be able to combine if they're not like, if it's not too weird to combine it, you know? So we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna address those things.
I mean, as I remember, they're mostly 2019, 2020, 2021, somewhere
Yeah.
in there, kind of using, out there.
Our
Which
future
actually,
always looks like we
2019 is
have more
always
time to
just
figure
next
these
year.
things out, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just my kind of going through, it all looked really good, and that you're gonna be really busy.
Yeah.
You know, it's that next step of trying to figure out, okay, now how do we really
Prioritize
do
these things.
all this and
Yeah,
kind of figure out what realistically you can do, and, you know, some of this is the reach, and some of it is, I mean, I think that would be a bit more of a
it'll be a challenge. Some of it has already been started, you know? So like, there's a part in there that is, you know, responding to people with disabilities, and Jen's already started that class, for instance.
Would it be appropriate to think that, I mean, as you now, I mean, once it's adopted by the commission and kind of, okay, we all bless it, and then then you're thinking about where priorities and kind of what goes first, it feels like that's a place where the board can also weigh in and say, yeah, that makes sense, or support you, or whatever, which is
Right.
different than, I think, the other organizations, which are then kind of where they want to fit in to support something, but it's really you and the board kind of sorting out.
Yeah.
Here, these are the things we're really working on first and
Right.
how we're moving, which are kind of laid out in your measures.
Well, and as we start talking about budget stuff, which is coming up like instantly, we've already had conversation with Tony and the other department heads and stuff like that about, so I'm pushing for more staff, you know? It's like well, and frankly, like if you want to keep the library at the center of like people being satisfied and you want to keep the building beautiful, more money, you know, so.
So I don't know if we are at the point that you would like the board to recommend adoption or approval or something like
Yeah,
that. And then the
whatever's
next step
appropriate.
would be also presenting to the city commission.
Right.
Which they need to also, I assume, adopt, approve it. I don't know what.
Yeah, I sent it to Tony today, like, this is the final, what I'm presenting today to the library board, and help me think about how to present this in the best way to the city commission. So like Katie presented a records management strategic plan last night, you know, and it was pretty quick. And it was really nicely done, but there were like maybe 4 slides, you know? And, yeah, so I mean, we don't necessarily need them to like approve of like every single activity that we've come up with, you know, but we certainly want them to know about what we think are the important areas that we've heard from, you know, a number of people. So, and that's where we're gonna be focusing attention, so.
Will they get a handout of this to have beforehand?
Well, just like you, they would get it emailed, you know, or they would have an agenda and it would be attached and they'd be able to look at it all,
The new fashioned way,
the
okay.
new fashioned way, yeah.
So why don't we break this up and first do approve it or adopt it? I don't know if we approve or adopt. I'm not sure what the right term is there.
Maybe what you guys do is recommend adoption by the city commission.
Okay. So we'll do that and then we can talk about next steps. Okay.
Okay,
So if somebody would like to make a motion that we approve adoption of the proposed strategic plan by the city commission. Did I get that right?
that
Approving
you
adoption.
recommend adoption.
Recommend,
Yeah.
recommend adoption.
Okay, so is that the motion?
Yeah, something like recommending adoption of the strategic plan.
Well, we recommend that the commission
Commission approves.
adopt the strategic plan.
Perfect.
Words to that effect.
Recommend. Okay.
I'm
Words to
sure you can straighten that out, didn't you?
Have we seconded?
Yeah.
Yeah,
just did.
and seconded. So it's been moved and seconded to recommend adoption of the strategic plan by the city commission. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
And good work, by the way.
Thank you.
I really like that work.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully it's in a format that's like kind of, you can, it is pretty, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bear does great work. And that you can draw some meaning from, instead of just like text and text and text, you know, it's just like, my eyes just
Yeah.
fail to comprehend that after a while.
Yeah, I think it's great work. There's a lot here, and I think the challenge is going to be,
Yeah.
you can't really probably do it all with the current resources, and so kind of, and then as people want to help, where do you kind of make sure people are helping in a way that fits to a
We'll talk
bigger
about
picture?
that
Yes,
later.
Yeah, we will.
Because we just had a meeting with them and it went very well, so.
Yes, so we'll talk about that. So then do you want to talk about, so then the next step is to take this to the city commission for adoption? And it
Yeah.
would be you presenting, but preferably with as many of the board members there.
Yeah, that
as
would be
possible,
great.
I think
Probably
helps.
what will happen is, and I'm just making this up, imagining it. So probably what will happen is like, the chair and I could sit here and we can kind of say, this is our annual report. The library, like for instance, you know, we checked out 535,000 items in the last fiscal year, and that was 100,000 more items than the year before, blah, 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 and throw a couple of like really nice big statistics at them. And then the big work for this year was, you know, the building projects, working on the strategic plan and whatever, you know, some big things like that. And then speaking of the strategic plan, here are the highlights from the strategic plan. which we would like to be adopted by the city commission. So something like that. You know, I think we're gonna want to kind of script it out a little bit so we're real clear on what we want them to know. You know, what is it we want them to know? This is kind of our annual chance to do that.
Good. Sounds good.
And that will be in January. But Jan, I expect you to come back.
So is there anything that you think it's important for the city commission to know that you want Mo to be thinking about as she puts her script together?
I think what you outlined was really good.
Okay.
I think that's a good approach.
I mean, I think it would be good to show them the strategic focuses, because I think that
Yeah.
does kind of, put these are the,
Yeah, I definitely think they need to see those areas. Yeah.
you know, I know it gets boring to see vision and mission and all that, so I don't have, unless, even though I think there's some really good stuff there, the core values, I'm not sure which of those to, maybe just the core values.
You know, we can like send it to them and like we can refer to it and just say, you know, you've got these and what the most important thing you need to know is that multiple people worked on this stuff. We didn't just sit down in a room, Denise and I, and just make it up, you know? We really like sweated over this stuff and thought about it for a long time. And so they really, really want to know that the constituents are participating. And that's where I think that you can help emphasize that.
And in your thinking, strategic thinking, now that I'll blab out to everybody, right? I mean, is this a time you signal that you are thinking about additional staff or more
Yes,
resources? I mean, I think
definitely.
it's okay, because you were saying,
Yep.
everybody thinks this is a great library, and to continue that growth and continue to expand and meet needs.
Exactly.
It takes more people.
It does. And by the way, Katie said that in her presentation last night too. So I think it's perfectly fine, it's appropriate to let people know, because if you don't tell them, they will not know, you know?
I think so too. So
Yeah.
I mean, just it's like
Yeah,
signaling your.
it's, you know, and we'll try and articulate that in a way that they can, you know, understand it, like if it's one FTE or whatever, and what it would be used for specifically. So I mean, we have some options there on what it would be used for, but I think I would like to emphasize the outreach and the school to library relationship in particular. You know, I know we need to put some staff on, time on that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we can't really do very well where we are. So that's really like at a minimum.
And you did give yourself a pretty large goal for 2019 to meet every school to talk about
Barrett said she
their
could do
summer
it.
summer program. I saw that one, I thought, whoa, that's.
Barrett said she could do it. The thing that's going to be really interesting is to see how many kids sign up for summer reading after that, because she went to like just one school last year. Well, I mean, she might have gone to more than one school, but maybe not. And the summer reading sign up from that one school increased 70%.
Wow.
How did your AC then? Across the board.
Yeah, well, oh, whoa, and there's a capacity
Yeah.
problem right there, you know?
Exactly.
That's crazy. And I mean, talk about expenses, you know, each one of those kids gets like a little packet and a little prize and everything, and so, yeah. It's a great problem to have.
Yeah,
It's a great problem to have. It's ideal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you can go to people with something that they can really put their teeth into.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
That's
that
just
is a
it.
project that really people would say, like,
They
we
love
can't
that.
take any more kids in the summer reading program because we've used up all
Yeah.
our goodies.
No, and I mean, you know, the Friends, I mean, there's also like the Optimist, the Oregon City Women's Club. There are other groups that are happy to give to groups like, programs like that. So, okay,
Okay.
that sounds great. And
Anything
so-
else on strategic plan?
Well, I think it's important that you really emphasize that it's homegrown and not something you picked up online or something.
The strategic plan?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, even though we followed kind of the formula that came from planning for results in the book, we really adapted it to our own purposes. And yes, thank you. I will try to remember to do that. And then not only did we adapt, you know, what we called things, but then we adapt the presentation style like tremendously. Yeah. So I like pictures, love pictures.
Anything else? on strategic plan?
All we needed to vote on was to recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did it.
And then I'll be thinking about that meeting more and try and, put some thoughts together, but basically what we, okay, great.
So our next agenda item is about the questions for the candidates.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about this last time. Mo sent out some suggested questions, some changes, changed order. Probably got some additional comments and so it has a proposal. And I think, sorry, I'm just getting mine opened up here. We have a list of the current questions and then a proposal for how they might be changed and a reordering.
Yeah, so using your feedback, I tried to change a couple of things and then make it in an order that's felt a little bit more flowing and intuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's nothing to prevent us from asking additional questions when we have the candidate in front of us.
Looking at question 3. It's 2 questions. And
You want it to be split out?
I would, if I was going to, somebody's going to ask me a question, I'd like to answer question 1 and then question the next question.
I really, really like that idea because what ends up happening is they answer one question or the other, but not both.
That's right.
Yeah,
okay.
that's a really good point, Ken.
Good catch.
I have a thing on the next one, number 4.
You don't like the way it's written.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's the second sentence that says, that I always caught this in my editing classes, like, what services do you think should be included to best serve our service area? There's too many.
I think we need to have service in there one more time.
It balances out then. There's an odd number right now, so
What would you say?
what would I say? I would say,
Yeah.
what services, what should we do to best serve our area?
Okay.
What should we do to best serve our area? I don't have to call it a service area, it's our area, How's that? That's a quick edit, but it works for me.
It's simple.
Cuts down the number of words,
It's
too.
easier to respond to.
Sure.
So let me ask about, that talks about the service area, and then the next one is really about the service area and being a broad service area. Do you think the first one could just be what services do you think would be best to serve our community? And not kind of talk about service area?
Well, the community is Oregon City, the service area includes the stuff outside.
Okay.
As I understand it. Is that correct? Yes? No?
Yeah, well, who knows what people think of when you say the word community?
Well, what I think of
Right?
is the.
Are
thinking
we
of
trying to
Redland
limit it
and
to
all that
Oregon
stuff,
City
so.
as a community?
Number 4, we're not.
Okay.
But I think in number 5, what we're trying to do is specifically say, okay, the library's here, and obviously it's got to be hard for some people to get here. How can we serve those people? That's what we're trying to say in number 5.
And maybe adding to number 5, the word entirely or something to the correction that was made, to the entire area. Just to differentiate it from how question 4 is.
Sure.
I guess I was just trying to avoid that for people trying to answer the broad service area, which is really the point of question 5. Where 4, I think we're trying to get at, what else do you think we should be doing?
Do we even
Maybe
need,
that's what we just say. What else do you think we should be doing?
do
Why
we
don't you
even
say
need
that?
the explanation in there? If we just said, jumped on from 4 to 5 and said, how can we best provide services to those living some distance from the library? That kind of explains what we're thinking about here, as opposed to saying, well, we have people in this place and in Redland and Beaver Creek and, there's a couple little
It's a good idea
codicils.
to say what you think you mean.
Yeah, just kind of,
Or maybe Colton, that's
yeah, what about Colton? What about Colton? There we go. So I'm just
Okay,
I guess I would include,
I
I would
like what he
keep
said.
them because people,
Yeah,
I don't think
like,
people
I need to
know
note that. I need to
that
document.
is our service area.
Well, I don't know if it's our job to educate them right here now.
Well, it's just like in my case, I didn't know much about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I could just go to the library and get a book,
Oh.
But I thought, hey, this is a learning opportunity for me, as well as maybe I have some ideas. Obviously I don't, but that's beside the point.
Okay, where are we?
I don't know,
We'll
we're,
just look at this debate.
so let's go back to 4. So I think we're sort of between 4 and 5.
Yeah.
If, so there was a suggested editorial change for 4 that is, do you remember what it was, Don?
Yeah.
What do you think?
What should we do to best serve our area?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, streamline the question, is what he's on.
What should we
Okay.
do to best serve our area?
okay, that's good. And then 5, there's some debate as to whether we need to talk about what are the outside areas, or that's good to keep in the outside areas. Is there a preference or a reaction to that?
But I think I had a point there too. He had a good statement there. I
Yeah,
don't remember
what
what
was
it was.
Well, it's just, you kind of drop the first sentence and just say, how can we best provide services to those living some distance from the library?
There you go. That's,
So just drop the first sentence.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that wouldn't even
Okay.
necessarily mean Beaver Creek. There's some housing developments that are way the heck and gone out there like this.
Yeah,
They're a long
yeah,
ways
it's
from
very
here.
true, it's very true.
They're almost
Okay.
all the way down
Okay,
there.
that's fine.
Beaver
Okay,
Creek.
so for number 4, do we want to include the first sentence, which says the new building has been open for 2 years and we're working on a strategic plan?
I don't think so.
Just drop that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big whoop.
Okay,
They're not even gonna be aware of it for the most part.
They'll learn.
Yeah.
all right. Okay, we good?
any other changes and questions? And this order looks good, I think the order looks good. Everybody likes that order? Okay.
On the last one, attendance at the meetings is very important.
Yep,
Okay, you want that in there? That's
attendance at the meetings is, that's not
Very
what I'm doing. You will not be struck down by lightning if you don't attend.
Yeah, I don't know.
What, do you want me to just say, or do we want to just ask, are you available? And then when I give them an orientation, I could say, attendance at the meeting.
Yeah, that one. I don't know. It just seems a little stuck in there. What else do you think? It just jumped out at me.
I can certainly take that sentence
I'm
out.
okay with taking it out, I can go either way. You're just basically saying, we meet, are you available to attend?
There you
If
go.
somebody said no, you're kind of like, well, then.
Why are you applying?
I don't care.
Okay, I'll take it out.
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah, because changing this meeting would be a real ordeal, because this room is booked a
Yeah.
lot, you know?
but generally, I like the new format of the
Oh,
question.
well, thank you. You should like it even more now. Good, excellent. I'm
So then,
happy. I'm completely happy.
so the plan is that we will do interviews at the December meeting.
Yeah, at the December meeting. So after this meeting, I will send you all their applications. And Katie has redacted any personal contact information from them, so they can get posted with our agenda next time as well. Actually, as Nick pointed out, the questions usually get posted too. You could actually send them to them ahead of time if we want to.
that's what I would recommend that we do.
Yeah.
So just as a.
Great idea.
So I wrote to everybody and just said this, well, actually, I didn't have one person, but now I do. And said, this is the date, let me know if that doesn't work for you. And 2 out of the 5 have written back, and I already have a time for one of them. So it looks like we might have, though, only 1 out-of-city applicant and 5 in-city applications, which is the problem because we have 2 out-of-city openings and only 1 in-city opening. So that means there's going to be lots of competition for the 1 seat and not enough competition for the other seat, which is, I just hate to carry just 6 people again, so we might need to reopen our thing.
Okay.
And then we're sending away all these great people potentially that,
And so have we agreed we're doing 4 to 6 or 5 to 7? Or people know that we need to think about 2 hours because we've got 6 candidates and 20 question, 20
Right,
minutes
oh,
per
that's
candidate.
right.
That's 120 minutes, that's 2 hours. So do you have a preference?
Yeah, and we need to be out of here by 7. By 7.
So,
Do you want to start at 4? The room is reserved for us at 4.
That 4 works for me.
Sure.
okay.
Okay.
4 is okay.
Everybody can get here? Okay. All right,
Can we talk a bit more process?
yes?
My understanding is that, I mean, I know there's discussions going on. Do they have to be recorded? Do we have to have our deliberations
So
in
here's
public?
what they absolutely have to have. Interviews are conducted in a public meeting, following current public meeting records laws. Present are the applicant, all members of the board, and department director. The interviews will be audio recorded. The public, including other applicants, are permitted in the interviews, but it is also appropriate to ask the other interviews to wait outside the chambers, but they are not required to comply with that request.
But you don't have to tell them they're not required.
No, you don't have to tell them. And so we don't have to do this recording, we can just do audio recording, which I think kind of de-stresses it quite a bit, you know? And then we will evaluate the interviews, consider all members and staff liaisons' comments, make a decision on who to recommend to the mayor. And what we'll do is provide a ranking in preference order. And then the mayor actually makes the final determination. He has yet to ever disagree with any recommendation. And
But
then
do we
we,
have to do the deliberation
yep,
in public?
in public on the recording, but not on the recording.
Let's see, how can I ask this question? I know there are other groups that are not being done in public, so.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how much you want me to go into detail on it.
Well, you can spill your guts to me later, but,
I will. Okay.
so they're not following these guidelines?
Not that I've been told by somebody who's a participant,
Oh, okay.
which I,
Interviews are conducted in a public meeting. It doesn't have to be in here, it just has to be audio recorded.
I think your point, though, was whether deliberations have to be done in a public meeting.
right, because that's, to me, is the uncomfortable part.
Right.
The
Uncomfortable for,
deliberations, okay.
I mean, we're,
Because it will be the deliberations where you have to sort of weigh if we've got
We
5
have
people
5
choosing
people.
one.
Right. Well, let me clarify that, and I can let you guys know by email about that. Our deliberations public, okay.
thank you.
Gotcha, thank you for teasing out that nuance, I didn't quite, I thought that was the whole thing. Okay. And so we'll be here just because this is the room that's available, like the library is booked. I already thought of that, like, oh, why don't we just do it at the library since we're just audio recording it, right? But library's booked, so, sorry. Has to be here. Okay, I will find that out and let you know.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, it's much more intimidating here when you stand.
Well, it is in a way, and we don't have to sit up
Yeah.
here. We could rearrange the chairs if you would like to.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah,
I like sitting up here.
Don's goal is to intimidate, yeah. Okay, all right.
Okay. Any other questions about the library board candidate interview questions or process? So 4 o'clock in December, I think it's the 12th or something like that, so, okay.
And so Jan, that will be, and Dawn, that will be your last meeting.
The December one. Yeah. It's been a great 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time. 8 years is a long
Maybe we should
time.
go out for dinner afterwards or something. Let's think about something.
Okay, we could think about
Okay.
something.
We used to have a nice joint up here where we could go to supper, but now I have to go someplace else. But
I know,
there's something downtown maybe.
okay.
So our next agenda item is what we call communications. This is a section where generally people report back on where they have represent us on. So maybe I'll start with, it's okay to start with LDAC. I don't know if LDAC has met since.
We haven't met since then, so, and Mo, do you have any updates that you think?
No, I have no updates. but I get them both.
I mean, I haven't seen anything, any new information.
Okay. And do you have anything, Ken, on Friends? And then I'll talk about the joint meeting as well as Foundation.
Okay, well, the Friends got money in the bank and about 42,000. They're people who get along, and today they're working extremely hard at trying to figure out what to do all the time, coordinating stuff. They've got the annual luncheon.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you have that?
Yeah,
I left it at the,
well, I have a copy. They gave it to me when I got there.
I know, I have like 3 copies, and I was gonna bring one of those and give one to each of you. So the annual luncheon is when, Ken?
It's
December,
December 6th.
at 11:30.
To 1:30. And it's got, you're supposed to bring money
Yeah,
or your checkbook.
it's at 11:30 to 1 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it'd probably be a good idea to let them know pretty much in advance so they
Yeah.
can order what they're gonna get.
yeah, so that's why I was gonna bring you each one of those, but this can be found online, I think. And you may actually have gotten an email about it,
Several
right? Because I
emails,
know
yeah,
you.
Yeah, so I know I'm registered. and
Okay.
Other people are.
You haven't seen it? Okay, I'll make sure that everybody gets an email about this, just in case they want to go.
11:30 it starts?
Yeah,
And they're just trying to figure out what to do. They need to, Harriet is going to be retiring.
Finally.
And
Excuse me, I didn't mean that way.
anybody want to be president, because, chairman, because nobody seems to be interested.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of,
I think Linda and she are gonna split it or something, right?
well, they were kind of talking back and forth on it, and I don't think anybody made a real decision,
Okay,
but they'll work it out.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. These people seem to be pretty level-headed.
mm-hmm,
There's open house at the bookstore, I believe. on the
tomorrow
1st.
there is a chamber event, it's called After Hours, it starts at 5:30. And the reason they're doing it is because of their 20th anniversary of the bookstore.
Yeah.
And then I think there's another open house on the
On the
1st.
1st, I believe.
First,
December
yeah.
1st, yeah.
December 1st.
Yeah,
So there's tomorrow at 5:30,
mm-hmm,
free wine.
I know,
Oh,
I'll be there,
Yeah.
That's good to know.
yeah.
Cupcakes on the 1st, I think.
I think so, cupcakes and popcorn on the 1st, yeah. Yeah, they're borrowing the library machine,
Okay.
popcorn machine.
So I think showing up at any of those is a nice gesture.
It would be very much
Anybody.
appreciated, yeah.
So when is that? December the 1st? What time is that?
I think it's like an all-day thing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
all day, whatever
All day
the
at the
normal
bookstore?
hours of the
Yeah,
store are.
yeah.
I think it's yeah,
And you see tomorrow's at what?
5:30,
5:30.
yeah,
It's 5:30 to 7.
that's correct.
Chamber
Yeah.
event. And I think they're still offering, is it like 20% off sales? or something?
Something like that. They'll have a couple raffle prizes tomorrow, including a couple of library mugs.
Yeah.
So, be there.
Yeah.
Might win a library mug.
That'd be nice.
So I mean, it's pretty impressive, 20 years,
It's
staying
very
staying
impressive.
alive as a nonprofit, so it's impressive.
It's huge.
Yeah. Let me just talk about the foundation. So thank you, Ken. Thanks for continuing to represent us there. Foundation, many of you attended, had their little thank you donors event at the library, like October 18th.
18th, yep.
18th, in the evening. So I would say not as many people this year as maybe the previous 2 years, but there wasn't kind of the same push and new things that people were seeing, but I think still a lot of comments from folks like, well, I love coming, so I hope you're gonna do it again.
They do like drinking wine in the
Yeah.
library. Yeah.
This one, we didn't get people as much out in the library, they all stayed kind of in the room,
Yeah,
but,
they did.
they do kind of like, we, bill it as the opportunity to eat and drink and wander around the library.
Good
Never
wine.
to do that
It
again.
was, wasn't it? Yeah.
So, So it was also opportunity, Mo kind of presented some of the key, some big picture on the strategic plan. That's just trying to signal to people kind of where we're headed, so they can kind of be thinking. And then on November 1st was a joint meeting of the Friends and the Library Foundation that I attended, as well as Mo was there. And I think that was just, we had talked at one point in time about having a three-way with the Friends, the Foundation, and the board, but they had already set a date, and it didn't seem like we were quite ready to be part of that. Plus, realize when we meet, it kind of changes the dynamics, because whenever we meet, it has to be an open meeting through the public meeting, and it just changes the dynamics of a meeting.
It does.
Becomes an official meeting if, I think, 3 or more, or 2 or more of us are in present, so. So anyway, they had their joint meeting, and I think some of it was to kind of connect and just kind of review, and I think not everybody had ever met one another between the two groups in terms of their boards, and so that was helpful. Mo did a brief overview, again, of the strategic plan, kind of again, the big picture, kind of what are the strategic focus, and then kind of what some of the potential things under the strategic focus. And then it was for the two organizations to think a little bit about where they might fit in that, or sort of starting to think ahead. I would say my takeaway was, for both of them, helping sort where they see their focus and what's best for them to sort of try and fund. With the Friends talking that, they look towards maybe smaller donations, that they focus on books. That they have their own sort of membership stuff, but that they're probably more apt to donate smaller amounts of money, that it's more a little nimble and flexible, just because of who they are as an organization, and that clearly a lot of their efforts go into managing a bookstore, which takes a lot of the volunteer time. Where the foundation sees themselves as probably doing larger donations, maybe a corporate business, they have more of a solicitation process. All they're doing is fundraising and trying to think about what they can fundraise for in a bigger picture. I think it was a fairly wide-ranging conversation about what we might fund, and trying to think about, what's the best bang for the buck, what would make the most sense to do first. I think probably towards the end, Mo was trying to kind of let me kind of think what our priorities should be before you just kind of leap in and say, we're going to raise money for this.
Yeah.
Before we know we're really going there. So I think they both said, well, this is good. They'll kind of go back and do some more thoughtful thinking, but I think it will be helpful to see kind of what you kind of see as priorities, and maybe that's a place where also the board can weigh in and say, here's where we think we're headed, so this is what might be helpful from you, because otherwise I think they'll, could just randomly say, we want to fund this, and that's not on your radar to do.
Right,
So
exactly.
I think it's trying to bring those two together, as well as for the two organizations to figure out how their money is raised in different ways, and so sort of gets used slightly different, and can be leveraged differently,
So just to follow up on that, so we did have the Friends meeting today, and Jan had prepared the budget, the treasurer, Jan Salisbury. And so traditionally, what the Friends have done is, in the last few years, is they have funded the cultural passes entirely, which has been between like $700 and $900. It just depends on the year, kind of, for some reason. And then what they historically funded was the programs, or some programs. And I think with not a particular emphasis on either ones, but like kids stuff is always like a super easy sell, as you know. So they put money for the cultural passes aside in the budget, and they also put $2,500 towards programs. And that's really what they'd like to do. And we can niche them right into programs. And so we did have a little conversation about splitting that between adult and youth, and it doesn't have to be like right down the middle or anything, but it shouldn't be just all children's stuff. And so I'll bring them some ideas. I know Barrett already has started a list, and I got Gina already thinking about it too. So I think that will be very, very helpful. And then, the foundation, that's that bigger stuff, and they're kind of navigating very interesting waters in that they're coming off of a capital campaign and the building is done, and they want to continue to exist, which is fantastic and amazing. But it's like, if you're not doing like just strictly capital, then what is it that you focus on, you know, to really like make sure that you're supporting the library in the right way? So I think that's just a really interesting conversation to have, because some foundations struggle with that, you know, and don't really find a comfortable niche for themselves after a capital campaign. So I think we're in good shape, really, just the leadership of the foundation and that they want to continue to work with us. We're very fortunate, so. So that's kind of already shaken itself out,
Oh, good.
is what I wanted to add. Yeah, in a very positive way.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, just to throw this out, their bottle drop has been increasing. And right now, until sometime in early December.
Yeah, like
they get a-
December 8th
they
or
get a-
something?
They get a bonus if people go by and, you know, put the blue bags in. And so, you know, they just mentioned it, and I'm just thinking, well, I better fill up that blue bag. But
Yeah, and those you could get at the Friends bookstore.
yeah, they're right there.
They're already tagged.
Yeah.
They're already tagged and everything, yeah, and you just, then you get the bag from them, and then you have to take it to the bottle drop, which is out on Beaver Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The real trick, though, is it's best if you fill it,
Fill
because
it.
there's a charge
Yep,
per
for
bag.
each bag,
And if
right.
you got a half-full bag, you don't get much.
Right, so yeah, keep it as long as you need to and fill it completely. Yep. Good tip.
Good, yeah. So just all those little, I mean, there's the bookstore, there's the bottle drop, I think there are Fred Meyer
Yeah.
rewards card
Yeah,
choice you can do.
there's Amazon Smile they
Amazon
actually have
Smile.
too, they were talking about that, it's not making them
It's not making
anything.
anything.
Yeah.
But it
I think it's
could.
costing them, so
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's,
they might not keep that, huh?
but from the past experiences, they've discussed different things that have not made money and decided, you know, there's no point in pushing this, let's go someplace else. And
Yeah.
They may seem to make good decisions for the right way.
I'm surprised they haven't got onto online book sales.
They do, I think.
Do they?
I think Karen did, but I don't think that anybody has
Well, it's
picked it up.
it's a,
They're doing it through one of the, I don't know, what it is, eBay, I think it is.
Really?
One of those, yeah.
yeah, but you still have to have somebody to gin it up and write it up and photograph it and
You
take
have
care
to
of
do
the
a
sales.
lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
And then you have to send it when somebody buys it. That can be really successful, but it does need some oversight. Yeah,
Lots of oversight,
lots of oversight.
lots of oversight.
Yeah,
I sold Damon Maybe's collection online for them, and I was at it all the time.
really?
I mean, it was probably a month of just selling his collection. And then you're also in charge of packaging them, and taking them to the post office and mailing them, and taking care of customer complaints, and it's a lot
Who
of work.
needs it?
But you can sell a lot of books,
Yeah.
just saying.
Okay. So another job for you.
Thanks. Don't want it.
So, I mean, I think we're fortunate to have two really good supporters in the Friends and the Foundation, and
Yes.
it's mostly just trying to steer them to help them be the most helpful.
And the annual meeting is so important. And we're lucky that everybody is willing to talk about who does what and all that stuff. We're so fortunate.
So next agenda is future agenda items. So our December meeting would pretty much be the interviews. I don't know if there'll be anything else. Probably won't be anything else outside of, maybe you can send a written,
Yeah, oh yeah, I'll
Report, but-
send a written report of some type, yeah.
I know,
and then plans for the city commission. You'll let us
Yes,
know.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I know Commissioner Shaw last meeting mentioned that once they approve it, once the commission approves it, that you and one or two of us go to the neighborhood associations. to
Let's talk
explain it.
about that.
Talk about that in the future.
We can certainly, probably what we for sure want to do is to go to the CIC. And, but that doesn't need to be immediate or anything, you know?
Oh, right.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Well, let's talk about going to all the neighborhood association meetings. Let's discuss.
I know you've been
I
doing it.
would wait until you have kind of then a little priority. I mean, there's the plan and kind of how you've laid it out, but then the next is your own action steps or PERT plan or whatever you're gonna do. So then when you're going to the neighborhood, you can say, and this is what we're working on now. You know, this is kind of.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that we need to work on is, it's not very sexy, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we need to revise some of our policies. Yeah. You know,
Yeah, don't
and that
talk about
really is
that.
something we need to do, and it's not very much fun to talk to people
But yeah, you would be
about.
talking to them about, you know, the kids program and
Yeah,
linking with the schools and how can they help you link with the schools, you know, just like one simple thing, yeah, okay. And then I think I had notes that, another future agenda item, you know, so I'd put on bylaws, I think,
yeah, down the road.
down the road.
I think that would be a good thing to like look at regularly, so like, all know that we have bylaws, and we don't need to like do much about it, but there are things like, maybe we decide we only need 8 meetings a year or something, I don't know, I mean, just, anything's possible, all you have to do is rewrite the bylaws.
Looks like the last were approved in 2003, I
It's
think.
been a while,
So it's been a while.
so 15 years, why not, let's do it.
They're solid.
I know, they are written for the eternities.
Is there any other agenda items for future? We'll have at least 2 or 3 new board members, and then, so elections happen in the January meeting, or how do you do that? Or is it at next month's
Appointments.
meeting? Or do you
Well,
just assume
election-
Scott's taking over?
Well, I would assume that Scott's taken over, yes, but I mean, I think the official election would happen at the January meeting, yeah.
I'm out of it.
You do? So, okay, nothing else? I'll call the meeting adjourned. Is there anything else, anybody? Okay. Meeting adjourned at 6:06.